Well, hello everybody, and today I just want to answer a few of the questions. Well, one particular question actually that I've had, and that is, how do I find driving and manoeuvring and you know, just generally dealing with the Kita Chloe, the AutoTrail Comanche that is 8.7 meters long and 2.3 meters wide, almost 3 meters wide with the mirrors out, 2.85 meters with the mirrors out. And how do I get on maneuvering that around the UK roads, getting on with parking, you know, reversing it and all of that sort of stuff? And I think it's quite relevant really for all you guys out there that might be thinking about or even own a motorhome and are not that used to it, or maybe you're just thinking about getting a motorhome and wondering what it's like to drive it. Of course, the Kita Chloe, the AutoTrail Comanche, is based on the Fiat Ducato chassis and cab layout. It's the actually has the 3-litre diesel 180 brake horsepower engine, which makes it quite powerful, but it needs to be because it's a 5-ton van with a 1-ton payload and a 1500 kilo, that's 1.5 ton towing capacity. So it can all add up, you know, if I've got 1.5 tons hanging off the back, a payload of a ton and a 5-ton van, everything all together, 7.5 tons, I've reached the maximum of my license, and so that's quite a big heavy rig to maneuver around. Anyway, what's it like just driving the AutoTrail Comanche? Now, some of you will know that it's got it's a 6-wheel rig, so it's got the standard 2 wheels on the front, and then it's got a twin axle or a tag axle at the back, so 2 wheels on each side to take the extra load of that sort of payload and spread it out nice and evenly and give it a nice sort of ride feel. One thing I have noticed about the tag axle layout is that it deals with bumps and lumps in the road almost without you noticing, because there's always one wheel up on the road and balancing you out. So as you go across, one wheel will go down, the other one supporting you, and then that comes up and the other one goes down. It all levels out. And couple that with the rather nice uprated springs on the front suspension that the very kind people at A&E Leisure fitted for me. They are working out absolutely beautifully, because the whole rig actually sits really flat all the time now. It used to just sort of pitch down at the front, but it just needed that extra, literally about that much extra lift at the front to actually give it a really flat layout. So when you're parked on a flat bit of ground, it is now inside is now dead flat. So that's a good thing. But what about the drive? Comparing it to the last motorhome, the Heimer, which was 7.49 meters long, so just short of 7.5 meters. The AutoTrail Comanche is 8.7 meters, so about 1.5 meters longer. And well, what's that, about 4 or 5 feet, between 5 and 6 feet longer. And well, it's just about the same width, just about. There's a little bit in it, but not much. So how do I, well, let's just cover how I feel about driving the more standard motorhome, the 7.5 meter long. What I found with that was that much higher viewpoint than a car that I was used to. So I had before the motorhome we had a caravan, and our tow car was an Audi A6 all-road. So it's the estate version of the A6. It wasn't too low to the ground, but it was nice and, nice and comfortably seated, and you didn't really get to see much as you were driving down country lanes. You never saw over any hedges, and that's the big thing that I noticed when we started driving Jasmine Mire. We got that higher up view, we could see across the top of hedges and where we were going, and that is an absolute revelation. When you're going around the country and other, across Europe, you will see more as you're driving along. So there's one big benefit. And with Nikita Chloe, it's it's just that it actually is just that little bit higher. The cab always seems to be a bit higher than Jasmine Mire, so we get to see a lot more. The ease of driving, both vehicles had a 6-speed manual gearbox. The power in the 3-litre is massive, very easy to drive. The gear change is not heavy, the steering is not heavy, it's very, very light. It's like driving pretty much a standard car, although you are sat up a bit more. The steering wheel's in a slightly different position, and the gear lever is in a different place too. So it's, although there's not much gear changing going on. But what about driving around country lanes, driving motorways, being able to park it? Well, country lanes, you have to be a little bit more careful because it is a wide vehicle. It's almost as wide as is allowed in terms of the total width. I found out recently, about 6-8 months ago, that actually the legal limit for the width of a vehicle is 3 meters. So you're not allowed to actually drive a vehicle that's more than 3 meters wide on a UK road. Who knew? Anyway, so that's one of the things that you need to be aware of. You need to be aware of the width of the vehicle. And another thing, when you start driving a motorhome, you'll notice that the rear set of wheels, or the rear axle, is set, the back of the van here, and on a normal vehicle you've got the wheels close to the back of the vehicle, but not on the motorhome. You've got the back of the vehicle and the wheels are set right in here, so you've got this huge overhang from the rear axle to the rear of the vehicle. And what that does, when you've got that, if you imagine this is the rear of a vehicle and you set your wheels near the back, when you turn the front, there isn't much pivot going on at the back, but when you set them right forward like that and you turn, you can see that sort of real swing out at the back, and that can catch some people out. I almost got caught out because I was going into a Costco car park, approached it, turned right into the car park, and then I had to turn immediate left because there was a queue of cars coming out. And actually doing that maneuver, turning right, was no problem, but then turning left, I almost hit the queue of cars that were queuing to come out because the turn was so tight, and I'd forgotten about the overhang. And luckily I was quite aware, and looking in my mirrors, just managed to stop and correct. And I think I was about 3 or 4 inches away from the driver's door of the car that was queuing to get out of the car park. So it's something to be really, really aware of, is that overhang. It's the same on the AutoTrail Comanche. The overhang is massive and you do get that swing out. So when you're going round roundabouts, round sort of tight corners and so on. And it's even worse to judge when you're trying to reverse. You try and do a sort of reverse round corner type thing in one of these things, and you have to go back way further than you would imagine to get that swing in, and not actually mount up on the pavement. It's quite difficult to judge actually, until you really get used to it and have a bit of practice. Not too bad. Once you've had a bit of practice, you're aware of it, you can do it, and it's not too difficult, not difficult at all. But what about parking? Now, we do go shopping on occasion while we're travelling around, and we shop in places like Lidl's, Morrison's and Tesco's. We choose a supermarket that is one of the bigger shops. They usually have huge car parks with lots of empty spaces, and what I do is, because the vehicle's so wide, you can't fit it in one space, and because it's so long, even if it was narrow enough to fit in one space, it would take up two spaces going front to back. So what I do now is I choose a part of the car park that is pretty much empty, or as empty as it can be. I keep away from other cars, and essentially I park in 4 spaces. So I put the front near side and front offside wheel, one in each space, and then let the back wheels do the same at the back. And that usually I park across a section, so that I've got a space there, and then a space here and a space here, and I park the wheels in those 4. So I take up 4 spaces, but I'm always looking to be in a car park that has at least sort of 30 or 40 other spaces around, so that there's no danger of me taking up spaces and not allowing people to go shopping and park their car. You want to be a considerate motorhomer if you've got such a big rig to get around in. We don't do shopping on a sort of weekly regular basis, but it's between sites that we go shopping. So we might shop twice in 1 week or once every 2 weeks, depending on what we've got in and where we go and where we are. We also do a lot of walking out to shops and do a bit of shopping that way. So we're finding it not too bad, especially as we do like to sort of park up at a site and use the local public transport. We're always looking for sites that have close by buses or trains or little villages or towns that are walkable on safe roads. Now, there have been once or twice we have stayed on a site where it's been walkable to a village or a town, but the roads have been those little narrow country lanes where people come down them at 60 or 70 miles an hour, and we haven't felt safe because there's no pavement, you're walking on the road, and no matter what you do to keep yourself safe, always a little bit risky to do that. So we try and stay away from those sort of places, and I think we manage it, and we manage quite well. We're sort of reigniting the electric bike scenario. We'd sort of decided that we would get them, and then we thought, well, when would we use them? We're not using them much, and we do like to walk quite a lot, but we are reigniting and rethinking about electric bikes. We're going to go, if we do buy them, we're going to go for folding, and we are currently looking at the Rudog range of bikes, and maybe we'll get 1 or 2 of those so that we can venture further out. But more about that in another vlog that will be coming up soon. I'll be sort of reviewing and looking at different bikes and going through the different scenarios that we might use them, and looking at the different types and what's good and what's bad about them. One thing I will say about electric bikes is that they have huge batteries and they need charging up, so that's another consideration as we are living more and more off-grid. So there we are. But I think that's going to be all for today. To answer your questions about those sort of parking situations, it's not that bad. If you've got a standard motorhome and sort of holidaying, I think you're going to be fine. The 7 metre, 7.5 metre vans are not that hard to park once you get used to them. The 8 or 9 metre vans like Nikita Chloe, they are a bit more challenging, and I've never yet parked one in a high street, and I don't really intend to. but that's it for today. So thanks so much for watching, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please do click the subscribe button below this video, and then if you want to be reminded, click on the little bell icon, and that will send you a reminder every time we upload a new video. One other thing is, if you want to be involved in getting news, reviews and opinion about caravanning and motorhoming, pop across and sign up to the newsletter at essentialcaravanandmotorhome.com. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye bye for now.